I am Laksono Trisnantoro from Universitas Gadjah Mada, Indonesia. My title is Managing Risk and Hospital Business Continuity During COVID-19 Pandemic. There are 4 chapters in my presentations. One about introductions, and then risk management, business continuity plan, and leadership skills needed. For introductions, okay. So we have some facts on hospital preparedness for major disaster during the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020. So if you look at in our activities, we train on hospital disaster plan about incident command system for 100 hospital at the beginning of pandemic. And the 90% of hospital, they do have hospital disaster plan, and 80% they activated their command system. But there's a big part that the hospital disaster plan, it was developed for natural disasters such as earthquake and volcanic eruption. It is not suitable for or not enough for COVID-19 pandemic. That is very, very important notes of our training activities. And if you look at the incident command system, if we look at all of the function of management, is totally different between COVID-19 pandemic and the disaster like earthquake or flooding or volcanic eruptions. And our weakest point is the planning system. We don't have enough informations and capacity in the planning time for facing the COVID-19 pandemics. So if we can see that is a disaster, non-nature, that it was not prepared well. And also we have some failure, and it's like we call it like trial and error in managing the ICS. And mostly the logistic is becoming very, very important, that some of the logistic like devices for patient is not well planned or maybe stocked or distributed. So we have problems in this kind of devices. But again, the biggest point is still the planning. So when we look at the PAHO index as the benchmark, there are 4 at least very, very important items. One is ensuring hospital to continue functioning and provide appropriate and sustainable healthcare during and after emergency and disaster. This is not an easy benchmark. And then protecting health worker, patients, and family. Protecting the physical integrity of hospital building, equipment, and hospital system at a time of crisis. And then ensuring a safe hospital and resilient towards risk in the future during disaster and health crisis. So from these benchmarks, if you look at maybe the most difficult is how to protect health worker, patients, and family. We don't have enough at the time skills and also knowledge, information about how to protect health workers. This is the biggest problem it was. Now it's becoming better and better. So in the future, if we look forward to the future, we have to make sure that everything in this index should be like met by hospital management. So that's why we have new challenges for planning. Again, the weakest part of our system is the plan. So now the challenges are we have to look at the hospital business plan for all hospital who has like risk for having a major disaster. But most of the hospital directors, they do not understand about the business continuity plan, and this is the fact. Okay, so in summary, there's a problem of managing risk of major disaster, and this is the thing that we have to look at the future by ensuring that the risk is managed properly by the system. So now look at in the second chapter in my presentation about risk management. So when we look at the business assessment, including risk, we have to look at the risk assessment is one important or the beginning of activities on measuring current vulnerability towards business environment. So we have to have the risk assessment. And then secondly, we have to make a business impact analysis about evaluating the possibility of loss that can happen during the disaster. So the impact of the disaster we have to predict since the beginning. Okay, for the risk assessment, we have to look at the risk management principle. This is a very popular graph of risk management, that risk consists of hazard and vulnerability, and that it can be reduced of our capacity for managing risk. So in a more detailed risk management, we can have like program 1 about hazard, the virus, the COVID-19 virus, and how to mitigate the virus, and it's not easy. We don't have enough information and knowledge about the behavior of the COVID-19 virus, and it is not easy to overcome this like transmission of the virus. And then we have the vulnerability in our system, in our hospitals, about the location, financing, the workers, equipment, the vulnerable groups, and also the accompanying disease that also are becoming one of important issue in the safety of health workers. From this point, we have to look at the capacity that should be increased by many activities or program. So this is the risk management. From the risk analysis, we have to look at how to manage the risk in terms of how to improve our capacity for managing the risk. So using this kind of understanding, then we can look at the risk analysis for our hospital, and then we can have the possibility of the potential disaster threat, and then calculating disaster impact, and then identify the risk analysis. And then if you look at the COVID-19 is actually the most dangerous hazard compared to flood and earthquake, is very, very frightening, is black. So from this point, then we understand that non-natural pandemic, COVID as a disaster, is a very, very important factor for making a business impact analysis in the future. So we have to pick a theme in the hospital, and then set scope and objective about the scenario for impact analysis, and then identify or gathering informations, and then look at the documents, write a report, and present findings to leaderships. And the next step, this is the point that we have to make a plan to address them. And then review this business impact analysis for maybe modifying the plan for every year, or at least if we have any change in the business impact analysis. So from this, we encourage the hospital to write a business continuity plan. Okay, so this is based on the risk analysis, and then we try to have like a business impact analysis, and then this is becoming like the platform for all the fundamental things for writing business continuity plan. So what is a business continuity plan? In this third section, I try to look at the plan in the development of COVID-19 pandemic. So if you look at this pandemic, it is still, we don't know yet when the disaster or the pandemic will finish. In the left side, if we look at the things before the disaster or the pandemic, we have the preparedness. And that I said that our preparedness, our plan for COVID-19, it was very, very bad plan. We didn't have any imaginations of COVID-19 problems. So when we face the recovery phase in the right, then we have to make a business continuity plan. It is not a hospital disaster plan, but it is related. So we have to prepare our business during the pandemic that we have to survive, but also we have to plan our business after the disaster or the pandemic. So both within disaster and in the future. And it's not easy, because we have to look at the planners in this hospital business continuity plan. Actually, they are not only disaster emergencies experts. It is not only emergencies, but also business orientation or business people. That's why we have to identify the most essential needs for planning to maintain the organization, sustainability of organizations, and again, we have to make a strategic decision making by leadership to manage organizations. And that's why the purpose of this business continuity plan is to maintain hospital that should be in the form of continuing to operate, and then also to prepare such capacity. During the pandemic, we don't know yet whether we have a surge or not. So we have to prepare for such situations. Then having a planning team, and then require budget adjustment, and we have to look at that business plan as a living document. It's not only make for once, but it is a living document. And for PAHO index benchmark, we have to, again, back to the issue of preparing the future for the worst situations. So that's why we have to design the business continuity plan, that because the hospital is not certain, and then also we have to overcome the mental pressure, and then we have to have like looking at the decline of financial income, because also the non-COVID patient is also declining. And then we have to make a proper spending strategy, that at the moment we have a very different situations. And then we have to make a business strategy when the pandemic is ending or terminated, but still in uncertainty. And also we have to think about the effective strategy for the innovations of services during the pandemic, like the telemedicine service. So that means we have a team of director and planning team, and then evaluate by every year evaluations. And this is the components of the business continuity plan. It is the same with the planning, but the point is we have to make all the role of hospital and specific hazard in our planning. Okay. And then if you look at the plan itself, it is like a combinations or like a move between emergency operation plan becoming a business operation plan. It's not only one like emergency purpose, but we have to think many purpose, including like the indicators of financial outcome. It is very, very important. And all of this activity needs strong leadership during disaster. And it makes a team of what we call like a very, very mixed expertise team, and then it can be result in the changing of strategic plan and yearly plan. So this is very, very important issue. And then for this, we can have like meta leadership concept for guiding the BCP plan. And if we look at the 3 dimensions of meta leadership, we can look at the dimension 1, the persons, the situations, and the connectivity. If you look at the dimension number 2, it is very important that business continuity plan is embedded in this leadership, because a leader should have analysis, should be action-oriented, yes, and then also can predict the situations. And very important, that is not only leaders who thinking only, but also have action. So the point is to make leadership in point or in the box number 1. Leaders who are thinkful, yeah, and action oriented. And this is very important to make a business continue plan is becoming the plan for action based on what we call a thoughtful activities, including risk management. I think this is the end of my presentation. Back to the issue that risk management should be carefully thought and implemented by strong hospital leaders during COVID-19 pandemics. Thank you very much for your kind attention.